Okay, inshallah. Ready? Okay, so inshallah we're going to proceed with the next session, with the most important session on introduction to Montessori. But let me introduce to you briefly on Madam Nusaibah. So Madam Nusaibah comes all the way from England. Yes, but alhamdulillah now we are blessed as Malaysians because now she lives in Malaysia, specifically in Seremban. So you know where to hunt for her. So she runs the school there, Ruby Montessori, and Nusaibah will be sharing with all of us, inshallah, her experience and her knowledge in the field of Montessori. And you've been a Montessori teacher for 17 years, mashallah. I'll be SPM now. Finish our SPM 17 years. Okay, so I really hope everyone can focus really well, and if your children can bring them to the kids' room, so that I really pray that all of you will get the most as much as possible, because I also need to learn. It's my first time actually attending the introduction to Montessori, but I already took her course online, so she has an online course that you can subscribe to this afterwards for your, you want to repeat and listen it to over and over again. So okay, Nusaibah, welcome, inshallah.
Thank you, Dr. Atia.
Is the volume okay at the back? Shall I make it louder?
So thank you, Dr. Atia, for organising this, and I think this is a wonderful opportunity for a lot of you to come and see what the benefit is of a Montessori education for your child, and to actually, for this to be face-to-face with so many of you is much nicer, because a lot of my work is online, so some of you follow me online anyway, so now we get to see each other face-to-face, and hopefully I can answer some of your questions and can really inspire you and help you with your children, whether you're homeschooling or you're sending them to school, or even if it's for, you're a teacher of other people's children, inshallah, I can help you with this talk. So I'm just going to give you, Dr. Atia has introduced me, but I'm going to give you a little bit more introduction, just so that you are aware. So my Montessori journey actually didn't start 17 years ago. Actually, I went to Montessori as a child. So I attended a Montessori school in London, and I have some really beautiful memories of my time in that school. I remember the teachers were very loving, very caring, and I felt like they knew me, and I felt like they knew what my potential was, right? And I attended that until I was about 6 years, and then I went into a private mainstream school. Mainstream just means like the normal standard curriculum that you have in regular schools. So I went to a mainstream school, and I remember that first year, I kept thinking, what is wrong with these teachers? Like, how come they don't know what I can do and can't do? How come they don't know what I can do, what I can't do? Why are they so focused on whether I can write my letters correctly and whether I can, fill in this worksheet? Because I knew there was so much more I could do, because I'd come out of a Montessori environment. So in a Montessori environment, your child learns what they can do, and they know their own capabilities and their potential. So when you go into a normal school, you're kind of like, hang on a minute, there's a lot more I can do. Why do I just have to keep doing this thing all the time? Don't you know I already know that? So when I went into a mainstream school, that's when I really started to question education. Even though as a child, I started to question education, and for many years, I had this comparison of what my experience was in a Montessori environment and what my experience is in a mainstream environment. So that's why I had a very clear compass from a very young age that I wanted to train to be a Montessori teacher. And when I registered, I was the youngest teacher on the course. And I was like so adamant, no, this is my journey. I have to be a Montessori teacher. And alhamdulillah, from a young age, I trained as a Montessori teacher, and I got, I was very lucky that I got to work with some excellent Montessori teachers along the way. Because when you become a Montessori teacher or a Montessori parent, one part is you have to study, and another part is you have to share the journey with others so that you can benefit and you can progress and you can find your way through all the obstacles that you're going to face during that time when you're on your journey, whether it's raising your children or working with children, right? So before I came to Malaysia, I used to run an Islamic Montessori school in London. And running anything Islamic in England is very difficult, yet alone is Islamic school. And even in England, running a Montessori school is difficult, right? So imagine we did both. And I really had this I wanted to prove to everyone, even the people who didn't believe in Montessori and the people who didn't believe in Islam, I wanted to prove to them that you can have an excellent, good quality Montessori school, an Islamic school that can meet all the criteria that is set by the UK. You can, and we did. And that school, alhamdulillah, before I left, it was really successful, and we managed to get outstanding and get awards for our beautiful environment and for the achievement of the children, and we did a lot of beautiful work there. But I have a 15-year-old son, and I knew that raising him in England in his teenage years is not the right option. So this is one of the reasons why me and a lot of other people that I know, we actually make hijrah from England to another country, a more Islamic country, so that our children can be raised in an environment where their faith is protected and their belief is protected. And so that's one of the reasons why I actually came to Malaysia. My husband is Malaysian, by the way, so I'm here for good, so you don't have to worry, right? And that's my son, Noor. So I'll probably mention him a lot in the talk because, I've had so much experiences with him, and I've made so many mistakes that I've learned from specifically with him. So he's like, he helps me along this journey. And when I was a few years into my Montessori work, I got asked by a trainer to take some training on in a college. And I was like, what were you talking about? And the trainer said, no, look, when you believe in Montessori and you can help people believe in Montessori. So they started me off on training from a young age, and that's why I'm a trainer and I'm a Montessori teacher, but I'm not that old. I mean, it sounds like I'm really old, but I'm not really that old. So I think, I might be same age as some of you, okay? So what I do mostly at the moment is training in Malaysia, in Singapore, online. I do the Islamic Montessori training, but I also just do the normal Montessori training as well for people, for parents, and also train teachers. So that's most of the work that I do at the moment, and that's where we live in Seramban. Just so that if you want to know why I'm in Seramban, I don't want to leave that view and come to KL. Right? I want to live in nature. I want to live with the beautiful greenery around. And in Seramban we have set up a Montessori school. And this is set up as a kind of like model Montessori school. We put everything that needed to be in that school. We haven't cut short on anything to try and make sure that there is a place in Malaysia that you can go and you can see what it looks like to be in a Montessori classroom. So that's the school that we've set up about a year ago. And I have some of my staff are here that are in training, that are working, and you'll see a lot of young girls around me who are training to be Montessori teachers, and these are the ones that inshallah in the future when we're all old, these will be the ones that inshallah can carry on this journey of education for children. So that's a little bit about me, and the talk that we have today is going to be about Montessori. I'm going to introduce you to some of the key concepts of Montessori and hopefully look at how they can benefit you as a parent or as a teacher. Can I just have a raise of hands? How many of you are like parents, and how many of you are coming here as teachers, so that I can have a clear idea of what the percentage is? So if you're a parent, can you put your hand up? Okay, so pretty much most of you are parents, and a few of you are teachers. Okay, great. So when we have our own children, or even if we are working in a school with other people's children, we come to this point where we begin to question ourselves, what are we supposed to do with these children? What are we supposed to do? Many of us are programmed to believe that in order to educate a child, you have to take them through a set curriculum in a very set way. They have to do worksheets, they have to do workbooks, they have to sit down at a table with a pencil in their hand. For many of us, that's the idea of educating young people, right? Whether we're a parent or a teacher, we have this idea that if we sit our child down at a that table with a pencil and they sit there for half an hour, then that means they're learning, right? But education is actually nothing to do with a pencil. It's nothing to do with a piece of paper. It's nothing to do with sitting down. You know, the word education is all about bringing out the potential within a child. Bringing out the potential within a child. Helping that child to grow into the human being that they're supposed to be. That's what education is all about. And to achieve that, you can do that through something where the child is moving their whole body. You can do that through something where the child is playing. You can do that through something where the child is listening to something. It can be done as well where the child is sitting down. So education is not limited to that one viewpoint that we've been brainwashed to believe, where a child has to sit down and look at the teacher and write. That's not actually education, right? So we need to start first by being really clear about what education is truly about, right? Which is developing and bringing out the potential within the child. One of the reasons why I like Montessori so much is because Montessori, the ultimate aim of Montessori is not to make children smarter. It's not to make children more academic. It's not to have an easy way to, teach children. It's not that you have lots of manipulatives and children can understand that concept, whether it's maths or language, easier. Right? Montessori doesn't make your child read faster. It doesn't make your child do maths better. That's not what Montessori is about. One of the things that I love about Montessori is it's truly about supporting a child on their own individual journey of learning and development so that they can reach who they're supposed to be. And the person that they're supposed to be is the one that Allah has already written for them. It's the one that Allah has decided that this person is going to be like this. So our duty, whether we're a parent or we're an educator, our duty is to support the child's development on that way. Actually, that's what teachers are supposed to do. If you're a teacher or you're a parent, you're supposed to be supporting the child on their journey, right? But the idea of education over the last 500 years has really walked into this one idea that unless you're writing and you're sitting, you're not being educated, right? Unless you're in a school where you're sitting in classes for 1 hour or you're attending from 9 to 5, then you're not educated. And I love seeing so many homeschoolers in Malaysia. I know there's a lot of you in here, and I think it's wonderful that you choose to educate your children by yourself. It's wonderful that you choose not to put them into that system, and you choose to give them another way and prove that people can be educated through other means, right? So for me, you can reinvent the wheel. You can take this philosophy about education has to be something where the child is involving all their body and is something dynamic and something where the child is, engaging instead of just sitting at a table. So you can take all this idea and you can create your own way of teaching your child. You can do that. And you can make mistakes and you can learn from them and then you can modify and you can keep doing that, right? Which is what a lot of people do. Or you can just use a method which is proven to work. And the Montessori method, for more than 100 years, has been used globally by teachers, by parents, by different kinds of educators. And it's proven that the Montessori method provides the framework that we need, whether we're parents or teachers, to successfully educate children in a way that they will fulfill their potential of who they're supposed to be. So because we already have this model, we don't need to reinvent everything. We can just learn and study what Maria Montessori discovered about the child, and we can use all of that information and that philosophy to help ourselves become better parents and better teachers and implement that with our children. And one of the beautiful things is that this Montessori method, all of the philosophy, every single aspect that I have learned over these 17 years of being a Montessori teacher, every single thing matches perfectly within our Islamic beliefs. everything matches perfectly. I haven't met any part of the Montessori method that I think, hang on a minute, that is not right. So everything matches perfectly. So that means us as Muslims, we have this really brilliant opportunity to take a method which is known to work, to study it, to learn it, and to develop ourselves as parents, develop ourselves as educators, and provide this beautiful method for the child to grow and be nurtured and reach their full potential. Okay? Now I want to ask you to put your hands up if you sincerely in your heart believe that your childhood and your education has allowed you to reach your full potential. Do you feel that you right now are really who you are supposed to be? Do you really believe that you have fulfilled your potential? Put your hand up. No one wants to put their hand up. Do you really believe that who you are is who you were supposed to be and it's completely fulfilled? You're there now? No. And most of this is due to our education, our upbringing, our experiences in childhood, right? And I'm not saying that, people who have a Montessori education when they're 30, 40, they're finished, they've achieved everything and they've done everything. No, but at least they'll have peace that they knew who they're supposed to be and they know that they're working towards that. But a lot of people around the age of 30, 40, you kind of sit there for a minute and say, hang on a minute, who am I? Am I really this dentist that just looks at people's teeth every day? Actually, I wanted to do art. Or, maybe you're standing in a classroom, you're teaching children, you're like, do I want to do this until I'm 60, 70? Or, whatever work it is that you're doing. Most people around the age of 30, 40 begin to question themselves, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Who am I actually? And a lot of people die never discovering who they really are. Okay, and this is because the mainstream education has one channel. You go to nursery, you have exams, you go to school, you have homework, you have exams, you go to secondary school, you have homework, you have more exams, you get a grade. Okay, if your grade is high, you're going to be a doctor. If your grade is low, oh, you know what, you can't really do much. Maybe you can just do some small diploma in something and just like working here or there. And then, the aim is that you get the highest grade so that you can go into the most valuable field, so that you can get the most money, so that you can have the biggest house and the nicest car, and you can give the most to your children, and you can, when you're 40, 50, you can sit there and feel like, oh, I did it, I'm successful. But a lot of people, even if they do have that success in the younger years and they get the grades and they become a doctor, a lot of people after that, then, when they are successful and they're sitting in their big house, they think, hang on a minute, is this it? Is this what all my life was for? And those of us who don't get the A's and don't go to the top universities are left behind thinking, I was never as good as her. I was never as clever as that girl that was in my class who went to medical school, and look at her now. I'm always just going to be stuck in this life because I didn't do well in school. But the truth is, it's not that you didn't do well. It's that the school system is designed to provide one specific way of learning, one specific way of assessment, one specific way of seeing whether someone is clever or not, and you're assessing one type of intelligence, just one type of intelligence. But there are many different ways, and there are many different types of intelligence. And every single one of you, and every single child that comes to our classroom has their own unique intelligence. They have their own unique gift. So Montessori recognizes all of that. Montessori is not about, taking, you're not picking the most like intelligent children, the genius ones, and making them become the star of the show. No, Montessori is about every single child within them has a genius. Every single child, Allah has put within them the ability to do something great. They just have to find out who they are, right? And you as parents, those of you who have 3, 4, 5, sometimes Malaysians have so many children, I'm sure you've seen every single child has a different potential. They have a different character, they have a different potential, they have different abilities. So just looking at your own children, you can see that you cannot use one test or one method to teach all. You cannot. whatever you give to your child, you have to shape and you have to adapt to bring out the best in that child. You have to tailor who you are, even as a mum, right? Sometimes the way we talk to our children are different. Maybe with the eldest, we'll talk like this, and then with the middle one, if you say it like that, she's not going to listen. I have to say it like this. And with the younger one, I don't even say anything. I just have to show her. You'll know with all your children, it's different, right? This is common sense. If you ask your mum the same thing, she'll say the same thing. You ask your grandma, she'll say the same thing. Oh, when your mum was small, I used to have to do. But her brother was like this, right? Yeah. This is a common human thing. We've all discovered it, but we just don't realize that that's one of the key secret ingredients to educating and raising children, which is to give everybody the individual approach according to what they need, right? And if you look at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you look at how he spoke to the people around him, and you look at how he was with his Sahaba, he was different with people according to what they needed, right? Even he changed his language, he changed his way to meet the people who were in front of him at the level that they needed. So being like that with our children, it's even part of the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, right? It's part of the sunnah to adapt what you're doing to be at a suitable level for those people who are in front of you. And the Montessori method provides that framework. It provides a framework, it provides the methodology, and it has the science to back it up. Montessori is totally backed up with science and research, totally. Right? Montessori herself was a scientist. So her method of coming to these conclusions was all about scientific experiments, right? So Montessori itself is fully backed up with science. If any of you are really interested, you can, there's a book called The Science Behind the Genius, and that's about Maria Montessori. You can read that book and you can see that it will show you loads of research about why certain things we do in Montessori are necessary and so on. Okay, so what I want to do today is I want to give you just a quick overview of some of the basic concepts of Montessori. We only have like 2 hours for the talk part, so it's not much. The introduction course that I do online is like 8 to 10 hours. Okay? So I'm just going to squeeze things into 2 hours. I just want you to go back with some key points and hopefully have some key points that you can implement with your own children. Or if you're a teacher, some key things that you can do when you go back to your classroom that you can make changes or a different way to view your child. Okay? So just on that previous slide, it says the Montessori method, the method of the child, because Maria Montessori herself, she tells us that she never wanted this to be called the Montessori method. She wanted it to be called the method of the child. Because this method is all about the child. It's about how children learn, how children develop, how children grow, how to inspire children, how to help them reach their potential. It's all about the child. So, sometimes you can think of this, instead of thinking the Montessori method, you can think about the method of the child. And sometimes just changing your thought like that helps you to see your child before you see the material. Because a lot of people, when you say Montessori, they think of the material, or they think of these beautiful shells, and they don't actually look at the child, but it's all about looking at the child. So what actually is Montessori education? What is Montessori? Some of you coming here, when you go back, you're going to be asked by your husbands, or maybe by your sisters, or by your friends, well, actually, what is this Montessori thing that they keep talking about? And why are so many people excited about Montessori? What is Montessori, right? So just to make it really clear for all of you, this is my favorite definition about Montessori. There isn't one 100% definition that you have to follow. Actually, there are so many varieties of definitions because there's so much in the Montessori method. But this is one of the ones that I love and I like to use because it encapsulates a lot of what we are trying to do with the child. So Montessori is a system of education. It's a method of educating. Not teaching, educating. Because remember, educating is about bringing out potential. So it's a system of education that seeks to nurture and develop the child's natural interest and activity. So the method itself is looking to, it's seeking, it's aiming to, it's hoping to nurture and develop the interest within a child. the interest, right? Those of you who have your own children, I'm sure when you have your tiny little infant and they open their eyes and they're looking around, they're like looking at everything with this intense like, wow, you know? That's interest. Children are born with a natural interest to learn. It's a natural thing within all human beings, right? If there is something that you don't know about, right? Let's say, you know, the first time you heard about Montessori, someone said, oh, you know, Montessori education, and you don't know about it. Is the natural thing that you just be like, you don't question anything? Or is it that you say, what is Montessori? Right? The first thing you're going to do is say, what is Montessori, right? And that's the same for anything new that you're learning, right? There's always this curiosity that you want to learn, right? That curiosity is natural within the child. They have a natural interest to learn. They have a natural interest to develop. Children are always learning. They're always developing. Even if you do nothing with your child, they are learning and developing, right? Even if they're not at school, they're learning and developing. So children have a natural interest to learn and develop. And Montessori is this system of education that focuses on supporting that natural interest, supporting the interest of the child to grow and develop, right? That's what it's about. It's about a system that we create, that we provide, so that that natural interest that the child is born with is allowed to do its work so the child can grow and develop to their full potential. And that's so that wisdom can be unlocked. The wisdom in the child can become unlocked. The potential within the child can become unlocked. The child can then be who they are supposed to be. And what I used to think as a parent when my son was young, I used to think that if I don't educate him through the Montessori way and I put him in the regular school, I'm never going to know who he is. I'm never going to know who he's truly supposed to be. And for me, as a parent, I used to think, how could I live with myself never knowing who my son is supposed to be? By just putting him in a regular school and then he doesn't have his potential met, right? And then he has to feel like so many of us have to feel, where we feel like, hang on a minute, who am I? Yes, I'm older now, but who am I supposed to be? You know? So as a mother, that was a very strong driving force that made me really, really want to provide the perfect education system for him and for others as well, right? So Montessori is all about bringing out potential. It's all about the child's interest. It's all about seeing how children naturally grow and develop. When you look at development of a child, right, there are many different sides and many different faces to the child that need to be nurtured and developed. It's very easy for us to focus on academic development, right? It's very easy. We all go down that line. I've been a Montessori teacher before I had my child, but we all have this point where we think about the academic development and we focus on that, right? But there's many other aspects that have to be developed. And for a child to truly unlock their potential, all aspects of the child has to be developed. The holistic child needs to be developed. And I like to look at the whole child put them into 5 sections, right? The first is the physical, right? The physical development of the child is key. It is essential. Children, in fact, humans by nature, they need to move, right? You need to move. You can't sit in this chair for a long time, right? Some of you already got up and come back, and you know Dr. Atia's gone. She's moving, right? So the physical part of development is something that is really essential for all of us, right? When you have a small baby and they're not walking yet, they're not sitting yet, they're not crawling yet, you pay a lot of attention to their physical development, right? But then as they get older, we just want them to sit still. But the reality is that physical development is crucial all the way through life. And if we as adults do not take care of our physical activity, we will become unhealthy, we will not be able to do so much, and so on. So one aspect is physical. The next is social, right? Social development is key to how your child is going to interact and live in this world. And the world is a social place. wherever you go, whether it's in the family or in your shop or in your community, or whether they go to school or whether they go to park or wherever they're going, there's a social interaction taking place. So social development is something really important that needs to be nurtured and developed. Mainstream schools, just the regular school, doesn't really develop your child socially, because children are put in a classroom with 30 or 40 children, all the same age, and everyone has to do the same thing. So you don't really learn how to socialize properly. It doesn't really prepare you for that adult, real-life socialization that you're going to be doing later on, right? The next one is emotional. And this is something that is often forgotten because you cannot see it. So when a child is lacking in physical development, they'll be, quite hyper, and they need to move and they need to this, and you can see it, right? And when a child is lacking from social development and they're not being provided with everything they need for that, you will see that the child will begin, they'll talk so much, or maybe they won't talk, you'll see something. But the emotional development is sometimes hard for us to see, to understand, because we're developing something that's it's not visible. You cannot see your child's emotions unless they have a tantrum, right? But we don't want them to have tantrums. We want to be in tune with their emotion. So education has to also develop the child's emotional side. It has to support the child's emotional side and lead them to the correct way to manage their emotions. I'm sure all of you have heard of IQ, right? Right? And there's a lot of talk about how high someone's IQ is, right? Have you heard of EQ? Right? Emotional intelligence is in fact more important than intellectual development, right? Emotional development, if you have developed your emotions properly and you're able to control them and you're able to use them effectively, you can achieve more than if you're intellectually, you have a high IQ. You can reach more. That emotional development is key. And the normal mainstream environment, and many parents, we forget to develop our child's emotions. We forget, right? And we ourselves, we forget to look at our own emotions. We forget to do our own path of development, of bringing up our emotions and healing from whatever we need to from the past. And I really love how Dr. Atia brought in a lot of that aspect about your own personal growth and development. That is part of that emotional development. And even till today, you have to look at it. So imagine if your child is in a school system where they don't pay attention to emotional development, imagine what your child is missing. And then the fourth one is intellectual development, which is very easy. Most of us know a lot about, what children have to do intellectually, right? Although the standard way that people develop the intellectual side, it's not necessarily the best way. And we're going to talk about the intellectual development of a child a bit later on when we talk about the older child. And finally, the most important aspect of development, which is forgotten in many places and sometimes banned. Like there's schools that are banned to do religious development. It's banned, right? But one of the most crucial things is spiritual development. Montessori herself tells us that if you prevent a child from developing their spiritual side, then you are doing one of the greatest educational errors. Because humans by nature are spiritual beings. Whoever you are, you're a spiritual being. There's things that you believe in, there's things that there's moral systems that you hold, and there's a spiritual conscience within you that needs to be nurtured and developed. And that is the same for the child. And as Muslims, we know that children, when they're born, they're already born with that purity, that tawheed. We know that. They already have that spiritual awareness. They have that spiritual awareness. They're alive with their spirit. But as we go through the normal education system, we're trained and taught to shut that down. And don't pay too much attention to spiritual development. And you just shut that down and you just become very much intellectual. And if you look at this chart, you'll see that most education system focuses on the intellectual. I've seen parents who homeschool and they're so happy their child can write their name. So happy their child can write his name. He's 2.5, he can write his name, he can say all his ABC, he can count to 100. look, I've done such a great job, but then when their child comes to eat, they can't feed themselves and they make a mess everywhere, and they're still in their diapers, and the child doesn't know how to socialize, they don't have manners to interact with elders, and you know, all the other four are just like gone, right? And it's not that mother's, you know, it's not that mother is a bad mother, it's not that. It's just that it's the lack of awareness, because right now the society focuses on the intellectual development, right? But we have to develop all aspects of a child, and to know whether your child is truly successful and truly developing, you have to look at the holistic child. You have to look at all 5 aspects of the child.